Year has simply not been the year for the Philadelphia 76ers and one Paul George. Today, we're going to talk about the news that Paul George is actually going to be shutting it down. We're going to talk about what this looks like for the 76ers, how he performed this year, or the lack of performance in relation to his contract or typical standards for him, and what I think about it all. So I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you subscribe here to the Basketball Bulletin because 80% of viewers aren't subscribed and they're missing out on our daily content. So make sure that that isn't you. Also, like goal for today. If you see it below it, it's free. So hopefully you guys can help us hit it. The like goal is going to be 400 likes. All right. So, Philadelphia 76ers forward Paul George has been ruled out for at least the rest of the regular season after receiving injections in his left adductor muscle, and left knee Monday, the team announced. So, we did get reports from Shams a bit ago, like let's say a month ago, a few weeks ago, that PG was already receiving injections just to play. And that's something that's not all that uncommon in the postseason. Right? Typically, teams are not going to, risk a player's health or anything like that, or put any extra strain on them than they have to in the regular season, unless it's very important towards the end of the season, leading into the playoffs. But we were hearing about this quite a while ago. So PG was already in a position to where he probably should just shut it down. And here's the thing with the Philadelphia 76ers. They have dealt with injuries all season long to their best players. They've mostly been in and out, some of their role guys as well. And with that, they're not really going to be in a position to really make a deep run. If they do sneak their way into the playoffs, they're going to lose their draft pick most likely. That's not going to be great, of course. So it's just more or less a lost season for this team with Embiid, his situation, all that stuff. And then PG again being where he's at. He was saying recently that he was going to stop podcasting to try to focus on winning a championship. I don't know what he's thinking because they weren't going to win a championship anyway. They weren't in a position to do that this year. Built no continuity. He was grossly underperforming, like we'll see in a second. But, I thought that it just made a lot of sense for them to just get healthy and try to regroup next year. But I'm terrified of the 76ers because they may have the two worst contracts on their books in a couple of years here. I wonder if they can even make it through a regular season healthy. Spoiler, I'm pretty positive they can't. At least one Joel Embiid can't do so. Why I keep saying one when I name these players, I don't know. But it's all bad. But PG getting rest and getting healthy, in all seriousness, is probably the best decision he and the team could have made. George spent the past week consulting with doctors on the best treatment options for his groin and knee injuries. The 34-year-old has played through groin, finger, and knee ailments this season, dealing with multiple injuries over the past month. Sources said George took painkiller injections for 5 consecutive games before the NBA All-Star break in February. The 76ers said George will be unable to play for at least 6 weeks, which keeps him out for the remainder of the regular season. The 76ers are 5 games out of the last play-in spot in the Eastern Conference. George, who signed a 4-year, $212 million deal with the 76ers in July after 5 seasons with the Clippers, averaged 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists in 41 games. $212 million max deal. During the preseason, George hyperextended his left knee, forcing him to sit out the first 5 games of the regular season. He hyperextended the same knee in November, which cost him 3 games. In January, he injured his left pinky, and he most recently has been sidelined because of a left groin soreness that has forced him to sit out of Philadelphia's past 4 games. George announced last month that he was stepping away from his podcast to focus on his health and turning around the 76ers season. I haven't been the healthiest, so it's just been me putting a ton of work towards getting my body as healthy as possible and to keep focusing on obviously being here and trying to turn things around. And full focus is trying to get this team together. A team rolled out and the MVP of the 22-23 season, Joel Embiid, for the rest of the season on February 28th. And now George has gone the same route. It puts a bow on a disappointing season for the 76ers, who entered 24-25 among the title favorites, but are now playing for their lottery draft pick. The 76ers fall could have a positive effect in one area, since their first-round pick in this year's NBA draft is a top 6 protected pick and would otherwise go to the Thunder. The 76ers at 23-44 have hovered around having the 6th worst record in the league for recent weeks. So it just, with Embiid getting shut down, this was probably always going to be the case. It didn't make any sense for him to come out and keep trying to play. Like I said, they weren't going to win a championship with Embiid. Without Embiid, they certainly weren't going to win a championship. And I think that statement could have been taken out of context. We want to poo-poo him. We want to talk about PG and meme him and all that stuff. But I do think the most important thing, probably other than that, would have been for him to get out there, get continuity, play with these guys, build chemistry going into the offseason. But the problem is that you could mess around and win a couple games that you probably don't want to win if you're the Sixers. And if you're the Western Conference, you don't want the Sixers to win either, because that pick is just on the border. They're currently projected to get the number 6 seed, but their odds of losing this pick to the Thunder are very high if they win any more games. If this pick falls out of top 6, it becomes a pick to the Thunder, in which that's the last silver lining for this season. You just can't have that happen. You don't want that to happen. You want to get a young player in here in a draft that I think has a lot of quality players towards the top. If you can get an early lottery pick like that and plug in, I don't know what specifically they need, but plug in a player of need, or maybe even trade that into something else, who knows, that could be very valuable to you. So you want to have that asset, right? So you don't want to play PG. You want to lose as many games as possible. Now, on the PG piece, let's kind of break this down. So he's averaging the least amount of points as he's averaged since this season, where he played 6 games, okay? 6 games. This season doesn't even count. So let's just ignore this season, the 14-15 season. This is the least amount of points since his sophomore season in the NBA. So before he became an all-star, all this other stuff, right? And his peak was in here in Indiana, OKC area, in my opinion. But that being said, this is the least amount of points since his sophomore season in the NBA. Just edging out his third year. Next, 3-point shooting. This is where it's kind of crazy also, because you're going to see most of his stuff is towards the bottom of the list. I mean, this season for 3-point shooting is the 3rd worst season. On a modest volume, that's pretty in line with a lot of his career at 6.5 attempts per game. Field goal percentage this season is the 6th lowest or so, give or take. Health it's something that's been a little bit spotty for him over the last few games, or a few years, excuse me. We're not really going to count the number of games he's played, but minutes per game for PG is also pretty down at 32, but that's not crazy. He typically plays 30. The career average is 33.5. So it's right on the career average, -1 basically. Field goal attempts. Part of the reason the scoring is down is because he's not been knocking down the 3-point shot, but also because the attempts are also down. 4th lowest attempts per game of his career. Next, if we take a look at the free throw percentage for PG, this season is 5th lowest. Some of these numbers, again, are kind of in line. 81, okay, his career average is 85. It's not the craziest dip, but really what I'm trying to show is that PG's had a very underwhelming season for his across his career for this entire season. So it's just not been PG. And this is not a player that you want to be paying, 50 plus million for the next number of years here. That's where this is kind of scary. We've talked about this before in the past. He's making $49 million this year. He's going to make $51 next year, $54 the following, and then $56 million player option and 27, 28. Embiid has a similar contract. This is where I said, with the health concerns, one's got to wonder if the 76ers don't get a title out of this, which I think it's going to be very hard to do. One's got to wonder if this is not just the worst contract or Embiid's contract. Who knows how that looks a couple years from now with his health issues, of course. The ceiling is higher with Embiid, but he's probably less likely to play, so I don't know. But ultimately, one has to wonder how things look in Philadelphia. So you absolutely, for now, the most important thing I think the Sixers can do as an organization, keep that asset with the draft pick and get another year of continuity with your main core guys. That's going to happen regardless, because there's no way they're trading these guys. But I guess we've been wrong before. Who knows, right? But anyway, there's no way they're trading these guys, most likely. But above all else, get these guys to get whatever surgeries or work done they need and let them have the time to rehab and go into next season. And what the most important thing next season is, you don't want to peak early. Let these guys be on a minutes restriction, whatever the hell they need to do, to where heading into a year from now, they are playing their best basketball of the season, and ideally going into the playoffs as a high-seeded team, as they should have probably been anyway this year. So for the 76ers, that's kind of what you're staring down. But for now, the best thing they could have done, I think, at the current moment, was make the decision to shut PG down for some of the things I was just talking about. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe, and check out our earlier video today on the screen right now.